Hello, Brick Sculptors, and welcome to Brick Sculpt. This is Chris, and today we're going to talk about one of my favorite pieces. That's right, this is piece 3386. According to Bricklink, it is called Brick Round 1x1 by 2/3, half circle extended with stud on side. Well, that's a mouthful, so I'm going to call it what most people know it as, which is the D-snot piece. Now, the D-snot piece came out in 2023 and is still current today. It's not available in a ton of colors, but it is very popular, so hopefully we'll be getting more as time goes on. Now, initially I wanted to make a video talking about how much I love this piece and all the great uses, and that's probably a video I'll make in the future, but I had to cover something else first. Now, a few days ago I put out a video about 50 different snot pieces, and in that video I referred to top aligning snot pieces and their corresponding pieces, bottom aligning snot pieces, which is the family we would put our D-snot piece in. And one of you guys commented to be careful with the D-snot and bottom aligning because it's actually different than the other pieces I have it listed with. And at first I kind of brushed this off. I thought, they probably don't know what they're talking about. But I had to test it. And this is really bothersome. They were right. Had I been lied to? What's going on here? Let me explain. So if we just take a 1x1 plate here and one of these bottom aligned snot pieces and stick it to it, you can see it lines up flush with the bottom. There might be a tiny little edge, but it's very minimal. For the most part, that's flush. Same thing goes for the smaller version. Nice and flat along the bottom of that plate. If we plug in our D-snot piece, it actually sticks out a little higher. And if I move this in between these, you'll see it even more. I know this can be kind of hard to see on camera, but you can see the profile there is not the same. Well, what the heck? So I decided to do some experimenting. And I put together this little plate here to see how these line up when we put them on tile. So first thing I did was attach a couple D-snots here, and then put a tile on the front to see how it lined up. And sure enough, there is a ever so small, but definitely there gap underneath. And from the side profile, you can see it even more. Interesting. So I thought, well, what do the other ones look like? So here's our other bottom aligning piece. And you can absolutely see a difference here. Now, I'd love to be able to tell you, oh, it's 1 LDU or half an LDU difference. But honestly, I have no way of measuring this. And I really don't know that it can even be measured in LDUs. So I couldn't really tell you what the difference is there. But I can show you, if I take something like my tweezers here and run it over the top, there is absolutely a ridge there. And you can see it's going up in this direction and down in this direction. You know, it was always my assumption that these pieces would be the same all the way across. And then I got thinking, well, one of the greatest features of bottom align pieces is that they work well in tandem with top align pieces. So I put a top align brick on each one and then tried my tile. And sure enough, they both stick down with ease. But now you can even more clearly see that little height difference at the top and at the bottom. So which one's correct? Well, these look to be nicely pushed together here. But if I kind of squeeze these in and get them fitting the way they're really supposed to, this actually separates a little bit. Where this one stays nice and tight. So what did they do? Are their tolerances just off? Is it not molded well? Well, I have some theories, but we'll get to those at the end. I also thought, can I just put one plate across the front of these? Well, I can, and it actually sticks down with ease. But if you look closely, you can pretty clearly see that this is more closely attached on this side than on this side. So it definitely has a rise to it as we go across. What the heck? Knowing how tight Lego tolerances are, I can't imagine that this is just a mistake. Very strange. So I thought, okay, let's see how it'll stack up to some other pieces. We have our top and bottom aligning pieces, the 2-high snot brick. And that lines up flush at the bottom, just like this one, where the D-snots pop up. But they're actually not alone in that. I tried another piece. As we know, this concept of top align and bottom align also applies to the bracket family. And I put a bracket on here, and I couldn't believe it. It actually aligns like the D-snot piece. It's got the gap here. Interesting. So does that mean that these ones and these ones are not compatible, but this and this is? Which would be very strange because it would be really hard to combine these in an application because they have a half plate difference in how far they stick out. So there wouldn't be a lot of easy techniques. You could definitely do it, but it would take some more complicated stuff to make these be able to attach across the front. But this one also has the same rise as the D-snot piece, where these ones sit more flush to the bottom. And I can show this even more if I go back to this example and put a bracket on here. You can clearly see that that bracket sticks up higher than these two bottom line snot pieces. Interesting. Now, if you look at these two pieces more up close, it's actually pretty obvious what's happening here. These studs actually are sitting higher than these, and you can tell because this stud just barely is higher than the top of the brick here, while this one has definitely a more defined ridge and catches my tweezers a lot more. So they definitely raised this up. Now I was trying to figure out a reason that they would do that, and it was really, really racking my brain. And then I thought, wait a minute, one of the biggest oopses that Lego's ever made is having the Lego logo on top, because as most of you probably know, that makes for some illegal building techniques that really don't have to be illegal. So I thought, okay, maybe they raised the studs up to avoid that. So here was my test. I took a bracket and I took our bottom align piece and I stuck it this way. Now this is very obviously illegal. You can see the gap there. This is clearly not sitting at a 90-degree angle. That's very illegal. This looked promising. Let's try the same thing with D-snot. Do the same thing with the D-snot pieces, and it's definitely closer, but still clearly illegal. And this also shows just how different these pieces actually are in this example here. And I'd be willing to bet that on the D-snots, if they didn't have the Lego logo on top and had a hollow stud, which every piece should have, that would be a legal connection, and a very good one at that. But no, it's still very illegal looking. So that didn't solve it. But I had one more theory. What if I took a plate and attach them with the studs facing other studs? Now this is really hard to see, and especially on camera, but these studs are actually touching these studs. And there is actually a very minor difference from the front here. There's a tiny gap more so than the back. This I would call an illegal technique because these are definitely touching and not allowing the piece to be fully pressed down. With the D-snot, however, it is super minimal, but there is actually a gap between the two studs, and this does sit perfectly flush to the plate. So my theory is that they raised that stud just a tiny bit to allow for this tolerance. So my next question is, was it a good idea? I think no. Let me explain. Though it's nice that you can stick this down with a stud in front of it, the applications that you would use this in are super limited because that stud is basically useless for connecting anything except for maybe a bar piece. But they sacrificed this connection being perfect, and they gave it that tiny little gap there. I'd much rather this be a solid connection and this aligns with all the other pieces than worry about if you can put studs right in front of studs, which you're probably never going to do. Let me know below what you think. Let me know if you think I'm right about this and that's why they did it. Let me know if you have another theory. Let me know which one you prefer. If you prefer it to be able to clear a stud like that or align better like this. Well, that's all I got for this one. I hope you guys liked this video. I hope you found it interesting. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I'm going to do more just like this in the future, and we will see you next time.